And it's Arcanine PC. We're by far the greatest team that the world has ever seen. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? You can call me Kai Guy. Welcome back to another video here on the channel. And if this is your first time here, then welcome to you. I am your coach of the Arcanine Pokemon Club. That is Arcanine PC for short. And we are here for our Week 4 battle in the NBA, the Naheim Battle Association, going up against Tilted Tony and their very, very crazy, scary team. Both teams are currently 2-1, so somebody's going to move to 3-1, somebody's going to drop to 2-2. Hopefully, we're the one who picks up the Dubski this week. I'm going to break down their team, what Pokemon they have on it. Also, I'll bring down the 6 I'm bringing, what sets are running on those Pokemon, and the battle will soon follow afterwards. So let's start with Tony's team. Tony's team is a Darkrai, a Latias, a Heatran, Pecharunt, Quaquaval, which is one of his Terra Captains, Togekiss, Mamoswine, Shaman, which is the other Terra Captain, and Electivire. Very, very solid team with some heavy hitters, some mons that can easily snowball, and a good amount of bulk too. Like Mega Latias, Heatran, Pecharunt, that's a pretty solid core on the defensive side. Like, that's not bad at all. Throw Shaman in there too to eat up some ground type attacks. It's not bad. I mean, you have Latias Levitate too, but you get what I'm saying. So yeah, pretty solid team. We've seen just how powerful Quaquaval can be because I have it in the other league. I have it on the Washington Woobats team. So I'm very scared about that Pokemon. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's the mon I'm most scared of. I don't know. I feel, is this a hot take? I feel like Darkrai's a fraud. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I don't feel like it's that good, but people really like it. Apparently, it can put in work sometimes, but I'll be honest, the mon I'm most terrified is Quaquaval, because that mon, it can snowball so easily, and Pecharunt is just so bulky, it's not even funny. Those are the two mons I think I'm the most scared of, so hopefully we're able to put in some work against them and come out on top. As for the 6 I'm bringing, let's go ahead and jump right in. First up, we got Rhea, the Kyurem holding the Life Orb with the Pressure ability, Roost, Ice Beam, Earth Power, Draco Meteor. I'm running this every week. I don't care. This moveset is honestly so good into 90% of the teams I'm going to be facing this year that there's not really a reason not to run this. There really is no reason to not run this moveset every week because Ice, Ground, Dragon coverage hits so much stuff for either super effective or neutral damage, so it's honestly a no-brainer to run this thing. We got the Life Orb there to boost the power of these attacks, Roost to heal off that Life Orb damage, Ice Beam hits the Latias, Ice Beam hits the Togekiss, the Shaman, Earth Power hits the Heatran and the Pecharunt. Drake dropping and the Electivire actually dropping a Draco really hurts the Mamoswine. Really does good damage to the Latias depending on their spread. Also, it could just Oko the Latias. So honestly, the only thing we're really not packing on this thing is Freeze Drive for the Quaquaval, but I felt like we could handle that thing with other ways, so hopefully that doesn't come back to bite us in the rear. Max special attack and max speed on this thing with a Tibid nature to try and be as fast and as strong as possible. You know how it is. Just trying to support Kyurem, get kills, and hopefully we can kind of go in from there. Next up is Linhardt, our Slowking, holding the leftovers with the Regenerator ability, and the moves Chilly Reception, Toxic, Psychic Noise, and Counter. Lefties is there to just get a little bit of healing, same thing with Regenerator. Regenerator heals us for 33% of our HP upon switching out and back in. So good amount of ways to recover ourselves here since we don't actually pack the Slack off this week, so I thought lefties would be super important. You might think, well, if you're running Chilly Reception, why aren't you running the Icy Rock? But I didn't feel like we needed it this week, and I wanted a little bit of extra passive recovery since we don't have the, what's it called, the Slack off this time. Chilly Reception is there just to, like, get the heck out, though. We can bring in Kyurem after that to take advantage of the Snow Boost. Since Kyurem gets the I want to say it's 1.3 or 1.5, it's one of those, boost to its physical defense. When it's in snowy weather, so that'll be nice, allowing Kyurem to get some more hits. But it also lets Slowking get out and let the Regenerator activate and everything, so that's very helpful. Toxic is there just to whittle down some of the threats, like maybe the Latias, or if we get the Quaquaval on switch-in. Because, spoilers, this is kind of my mon for Quaquaval. Like, this is the mon I want to eat up hits from Quaquaval, truthfully. Excuse me, sorry, I had something stuck in my throat there. So if we can catch the Quack on the switch-in, that'd be pretty nice. It could still be running knockoff, but if it does it once, then it's not going to be as powerful onto us, which is helpful. And then we also pack the Psychic Noise so that it cannot roost. Psychic Noise is also helpful for something like the Pecharunt, so it can't recover, the Latias, so it can't roost, same with the Togekiss. Basically just trying to make sure we can Toxic Stall his Pokemon as effectively as possible, preventing that healing, getting that poison off, all that cool stuff. And then, like I said, this is the mon I want being physically defensive and eating up hits from the Quack. So we've got counter on this thing to eat up a hit and then fire off some big damage because counter doubles the damage back at the opponent. And hopefully that is enough to KO the Quackball, especially if it goes for something like a knockoff. That will probably do a good amount of damage to us, and then counter is gone. That is the ideal goal. Max HP, max defense on this thing with a teensy tiny little bit of Spadef. Linhardt is kind of here to mess up the physical threats and go in from there. Next up is Lucina, our Sneasler, holding a normal gem with the Unburden ability. Yes, sirree, we're bringing it again, but this time with a little bit of a normal gem twist. So I'm thinking normal gem on this thing to get a normal gem boosted fake out off on something that could be a dangerous threat. Something like maybe if the Quackball gets a bit out of hand, so we get our Unburden boost off of that. Or I could even pivot around with Sneasler and slowly whittle down the Quackball with Unburden, or with just fake out in general. We could also maybe get this off on something like the Latias, because we have Throat Chop for that, or even something like the Darkrai, so we can get a fake out off and then CC it to guarantee us outspeeding it, because Darkrai is actually, I believe, the only thing on this team that's faster than us. So getting a fake out into Unburden close combat off of that thing could be very helpful. Then normal gem, like I said, boost the power of that fake out, make it a little bit stronger, so we do a little bit more damage and everything. I already mentioned fake out. It works on the first turn that you're in, does a little bit of damage, gives it a little bit of chip off, could activate our normal gem Unburden, and lets us kind of go in from there. Throat Chop is there primarily for the Latias and the Pecharunt. I kind of needed a way to hit both of those things. I was originally considering Shadow Claw, but I felt like Throat Chop just did more consistent damage. Yes, Shadow Claw does have a high crit ratio, but if they decide to run something like a Psychic Noise on the Latias for some reason, and so that they prevent our healing, Throat Chop will get rid of that because I believe it's a sound-based move. I'm pretty sure it is, so Throat Chop on that thing could be pretty helpful. As for everything else, Poison Stab and Fighting Stab, honestly. Like, Poison Jab hits the Togekiss, the Shaman before it Terras. Close Combat hits the Mamoswine, hits the Heatran, hits the Darkrai. Yeah, just kind of hitting as hard as possible. Again, max attack, max speed, adamant nature on this guy. Just trying to be as strong as possible. You know how it is. Next up is Saber, our SCIZOR, holding the leftovers. We're running Terra Water this week with the Technician ability, and the moves Defog, Roost, Knockoff, Bullet Punch. I want to start bringing like a more offensive SCIZOR, but defensive SCIZOR just looks so good this week that I felt like I had to bring it. Fiora, I need you to stop, because if you knock my mic out, oh my god, my mic wire out, I'm gonna lose it. Anyway. So, defog on this thing is to get rid of hazards because they do have a couple of the hazard stars like the Heatran, like the Mamoswine. Want to prevent those hazards from being up on my side of the field, weakening my Q-Rem because I'm not running boots on it. So getting defog off on that thing could be pretty helpful. Roost is there to heal myself. Knockoff is just to remove items. Bullet Punch is there for something like the Mamoswine or the Togekiss, just to get some decent damage off on this thing because SCIZOR still has base 130 physical attack. It still hits like a truck even with no attack investment. I originally was going to run defensive Swords Dance on this thing, but I wanted defog, and I didn't want to bring Moltres this week because that allows the Quackball to kind of just come in for free. Yes, we can get a burn off on it, but outside of that, I don't know, it just didn't seem worth it. So I decided to just pack defog on this thing instead with just a standard physically defensive set. Terra Water on this thing helps me out with something like the Heatran so that it can't do as much damage to me, so it can't go for like a Magma Storm just for free. It also is helpful into Quackball. If Quack just goes for like an Aqua Step into me, I'll be able to eat one up and then maybe get a nice knockoff off on it, get rid of its item, or freely roost up on it, or bring another one of my other threats like the Mon you'll see next, or even somebody like physically defensive Slowking. Just so we can guarantee remove its item and go from there. And like I said, Bullet Punch is just here to hit stuff like the Togekiss, the Mamoswine. You know how it is. Max HP, max defense on this thing. A little bit of attack, a little bit of Spadef, but it's mainly here to eat up hits on the physical side. From something like the Quackball, maybe the Mamoswine, all that cool stuff. And maybe be an emergency switch into Heatran if we need it. Next up is Catherine, our Mega Manectric. Holding Manectite with the Lightning Rod ability. And Volt Switch, Thunderbolt, Flamethrower, Toxic. Max special attack, max speed on this thing. His only ground type is the Mamoswine, which I'm not too certain he would bring one way or the other or not. I feel like he might because it does look pretty good into my team. Like ground hits Lucina, ice hits Frederick, ground hits Manectric. I don't know. He might not. But I wanted to just be able to freely Volt Switch around. And if they didn't bring their ground type this week, I outspeed his entire team. It could just freely quick Volt Switch on everything. So I figured might as well bring it. So that way we just get guaranteed momentum, can hit into everything. The only way we wouldn't be able to is if they bring like Terra, Ground, Shaman, or Quackball, but I don't anticipate that being the case. So Volt switching, if he doesn't bring the Mamoswine, is literally just free. T-Bolt's there for some big damage on the electric, with an electric stab move on the special side. Hits pretty hard into the team, does good damage to the Togekiss, does pretty good damage to something like the Darkrai as well. Flamethrower, we are packing that just in case they bring the Mamoswine, because if it comes in, I can catch it on switch in with a Flamethrower, so that could be pretty helpful. And then something that walls this thing, like something like a Mega Latias, or not a Mega Latias, because it doesn't have a Mega Latias, it's regular Latias. Something like a Latias that wants to switch in on this thing for free is not going to appreciate getting Toxic. So I can just fire off one of those on that thing and do a little bit of damage over time to it. Same thing like the Mamoswine, if that switches in, if I don't go for the Flamethrower, I can just put Toxic on it. And when we Mega Evolve, we get an Intimidate off, so that could also be really helpful to check something like the Quaquaval or the Mamoswine if he, for some reason, isn't packing the EQ, which he might not because I do have Grassy Terrain, so he might be packing the Stomping Tantrum, or not Stomping Tantrum, the High Horsepower, so that's a possibility. But for the most part, this Pokemon is just kind of here to fire off free Volt switches. Like, yeah, he could bring the Electivire, and that's a bit of a feels bad, but same thing, I catch that on switching with a Toxic as well, and I don't think it really wants to switch into Frederick very much, who we're about to see. Last but not least, we got Frederick the Tinglu, holding leftovers with the Vessel of Ruin ability. Spikes, Whirlwind, Ruination, Earthquake. That is the moveset we are running on this guy. Spikes is there just to set up my own hazards. We also have Defog, like I said, on SCIZOR to get rid of their own. Whirlwind is there to phase things out if they switch in something, and we can just freely phase it out to give it more Spikes damage. That's pretty helpful. Ruination plus Earthquake is pretty much all you need on this thing. Ruination cuts the opponent's HP in half. Earthquake does good ground stab damage into something like the Heatran or the Pecharunt, so I can catch those on switch-ins. And then, yeah, max HP, max Spadef on this thing with Vessel of Ruin, lowering special attackers' stats even more. Something like the Togekiss, something like the Pecharunt, the Latias, Darkrai even. We can lower their special attack stats, hopefully eat up hits on them, and then kind of just freely go from there. So that's kind of going to be the plan this week. Let me know what you guys think of the team down in the comments. What would you have done differently? What do you like that I brought? Yeah, hopefully we can pick up the dubs this week. Hopefully y'all are excited to see your Arcanine Pokemon Club take on Tilted Tony in the NBA. It is time to jump into the battle, so I will see you guys in just a moment. Alright, we are back. We're going to be doing this battle post-com once again. I feel like I like this a little bit better just because it doesn't drag out the videos quite as much, and you can kind of hear my thoughts a little bit more concisely as I talk through them, so it's not just me blurbing at myself and the screen for like a half-hour battle. So I think we might keep up the post-commentary streak a little bit more. If you guys really like the live commentary more, we can go back to it, but I think for now this is just fine. Alright, so looking at their team, they've got the Latias, the Pecharunt, the Togekiss, the Heatran, the Quaquaval, and the Mamoswine. Looking at this team, oh my god, does Q-Room go crazy. Q-Room goes absolutely crazy. They do bring the Mamoswine, so my Volt Switches aren't technically free, but in my mind, I'm like, I don't think they're going to lead off with the Mamoswine. So I'm just going to say, I'm just going to deal with it. Speaking of things that go crazy here, defensive SCIZOR looks really good, and same thing with the Sneasler as well. Sneasler with Fake Out, Normal Gem, and Burden looks really, really nice, especially because we got the Throat Chop on for the Pecharunt. So my immediate thought process is like, okay, I'm just going to lead with the Manectric, get my Mega Evolution off, get an Intimidate on whatever he wants to lead with. And if it's the Mamoswine, well, that sucks. But everything else, I get a free Volt Switch or a free Toxic off on. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm just going to lead with the Manectric and we'll kind of go from there. As we see, unfortunately, he leads with the Mamoswine. Which is a bit sad, not going to lie. Oh wait, no, I did lead Saber. I thought I led Manectric here. Oh, wow. Shows what I remember. I did play this battle a couple days ago, so it might be. So looking at this thing, I'm like, alright, well, it really can't touch my SCIZOR. Like, I don't even think I really want to Terra Water here at the moment. I'm thinking I could just freely fire off a Bullet Punch, and if he clicks Earthquake, we'll see how much it does, and if he sets Rocks, I've got Defog. So I'm like, I'll just hit this thing. Wait, actually, I go for Knockoff just to get rid of his item. So I get the item gone. The item goes away. We see he is Focus Sash, so he's probably Sash lead as he's got the rocks and everything. So probably Tekken Earthquake, probably something like Ice Shard, maybe Icicle Crash, maybe Freeze Dry. Maybe actually, I think Knockoff, Ice Shard, Earthquake makes the most sense in my mind. So that's what I felt like he was running. So I'm like, alright, well, that's fine. I'm just going to get a free Defog off on these and not have to worry about him. As he goes for EQ, it does a solid 60%. I get a Defog off on these, so his rocks are now gone. So I'm like, alrighty, SCIZOR is a little bit low. I could Roost here and, like, Roost stall him. But I think the better play is just to go for like a bit of a bullet punch here, get some big damage off. It does a solid 50%, and Mamoswine is already pretty weakened already. So if we can keep this thing low, we can prevent the rocks from getting up on their field this game. And then that does open up a lot of my opportunities to get hazards up on their side, which is really nice. As we see, we go for this, and they actually go for the knockoff here to get rid of my leftover, so I was right. It did, in the moment, I was like, Earthquake, knockoff, probably Icicle Crash or Ice Shark to get that Ice Stab. So I'm like, alright, that's probably what they are going to end up having. And now the Mamoswine is really weak. SCIZOR is a little bit low. I thought about clicking Roost here, but I ended up not doing so. I believe I just go for the Bullet Punch damage again as they bring in the Petrons. I wanted to knock off, I wanted to Roost, but I figured just picking off the Mamoswine, ensuring no rocks in this game, because I don't think he'd be rocks on Heatran and Mamoswine. I figured ensuring no rocks this game could be really helpful. I'm honestly surprised he didn't bring in the Heatran, but I guess that's whatever. So the Petron wants to come in. I'm going to take damage from the Rocky Helmet, so I'm immediately like, alright, well, I'm just going to Roost. I don't think this thing kills me with anything. I was calcing investment stuff, and I don't believe he killed me with anything unless he was, like, max special attack, I want to say. And even then, like, there wasn't really much it could really do me. It doesn't get a fire move. The only thing he really could have gone for was, like, a Hex or a Shadow Ball, and I think, based on my calcs, I did still live those. So I was like, I'm just going to click Roost. As we see, he's going to Parting Shot here out into the Heatran. So here comes the Heatran. We see it is on the balloon. I'm going to Roost up here right in this thing's face, and I get SCIZOR back to nice and healthy percentage. So looking at this thing, I'm like, alrighty, well, the switch in to the Frederick, the Tinglu would be free, but because it's on the balloon, that's not as free as I would like. So I think my play here was I'm just going to go into Slowking, I believe. No, I go into Manectric. So I know he could have the Earth Power on this thing, which could be a bit of a dagger, especially if he went for it that turn. As you guys will see, he does end up having it. But I was like, there's no universe he doesn't click Magma Storm this turn. He has to click Magma Storm or like Toxic or something into my SCIZOR. So we see he's still on the balloon. He's going to go for the Will-O-Wisp here. So he's going to get the burn off on me. Not a big deal. I actually don't mind that one bit. Manectric being burned is not a big deal at all. So looking at the team, I'm like, well, I can just freely Mega Evolve and get a free Volt Switch off. We pop the balloon on the Heatran. If he brings in the Mamoswine, I KO that with Flamethrower afterwards because we guarantee outspeed it. So I'm just like, I'm just clicking the Volt Switch. We get the Intimidate off on the Heatran. Volt Switch goes off. Does a solid 31%, so he's probably physically defensive Heatran, just based off of that damage. So I'm like, okay, I think I can just freely go out into my Tinglu now, right? Because I've got the balloon popped, I'm pretty much good to go. But I ended up going out in the Slowking because I wanted to maybe catch this thing and threaten it out with like a Surf or something. If he's packing the Will-O-Wisp, I don't think he's gonna be packing the Toxic or anything. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. My brother was calling me, he had a question, and I used my phone as my webcam, so my bad. We're back though. Anyway, let me get back into this thought process here. So the reason why I decided to go out into Linhardt here is because he doesn't know that I don't have a water type move, which is pretty nice. I can also chilly out in my Q-Rim off of this thing and bring that in for free with some nice and clean Snow Up, a little bit of defense boost. And honestly, like, Slowking's still really specially bulky, and I don't think he's going to be running like Flame Charge, physically offensive Heatran. So because of that, I'm like, I feel like Slowking is just a really solid play into this thing, so I bring it in. As we see, he ends up going for the Earth Power, only does 25%, so we eat it nice and well. He does end up getting the Spadef drop on us, but I don't think that was too big of a deal. Immediately, I'm like, well, what's stopping me from clicking Chilly Reception? The answer is nothing. So I'm like, I'm just clicking Chilly, and I'm going to just see what happens next. As the Togekiss is the switch-in. So I'm going to get Chilly out here, and I'm going to end up bringing back my Manectric. I wanted to bring in Q-Rim here, but on the off chance he was like Choice Scarf, Dazzling Gleam, I didn't really want Q-Rim to take a big hit. I'm pretty sure he would have KO'd back, but at the same time, I don't really want Q-Rim taking a pretty big hit from this thing. So I figured might as well just go out into Manectric, get a free Volt Switch off, and kind of go from there. If he brings in the Mamoswine, case still stands. I click Flamethrower following turn. No biggie whatsoever. So I'm like, I'm just going to go ahead and click Volt. Either Volt or I Thunderbolt this turn. I can't remember. I do Volt Switch this turn. I thought about clicking Toxic, but I thought the Petron also could come in. So I was like, eh. I wish I would have clicked Toxic there because catching the Latias on switching with Toxic would have been really nice. As we see, I'm going to bring in my Slowking this time. Again, eat up any special hits. I don't think we're going to be seeing D-Dan's Latias, unfortunately, as much heat as that would be. So I'm just going to go into Linhardt again. It is my play 1000%. They're going to go for Calm Mind. I'm like, okay, I'm going to Toxic this thing, get it on a timer. That's what we like to see. So now this Latias is on the timer. It cannot just freely calm on my face. He goes for Draco this turn. We only does 67% to my Slowking. I have no Spadef investment, and it only did 67 from a +1 Latias. Slowking is so good, it's not even funny. So I'm going to click Chili again right here, get my Regenerator off, and I'm going to bring in Big Bad Kyurem, because I know he is -2 or -1, so I think we guarantee take this any attack from him. And I wanted to click the Draco here because I'm pretty sure it kills, but I think I end up going for Ice Beam, as it just barely misses out on the KO, so he's probably got some bulk investment, plus he's +1 Spadef anyway. Looking at that damage, I'm assuming Draco did kill, but I didn't want to invite the Quaquaval in for free afterwards, so I was like, I'm just going to go for the Ice Beam, and if I kill it, great. If not, oh well. Even at -1, that still did a lot. He takes a big amount of damage from that. I kind of wish it would have done a little bit less, because I could have freely roosted up on this thing next turn, but now Kyurem is stuck at only 15%, which is a bit of a dagger. Mamoswine comes in. I was doing some calcs. This thing does kill me with Ice Shard, so I was like, it is what it is. I'm going to try and preserve this thing because I can roost up on something like the Pecharunt. So I'm going to end up swatching out Kyurem here into Scizor, as he goes for the Ice Shard. Does only 8% physically defensive Scizor for the win. I'm just going to fire off a quick Bullet Punch here, and the Pecharunt comes in. Only takes 13. We're going to take a little bit more from Rocky Helmet. That's fine. So he's going to go for the Hex, and look at that. It does nothing. Like, it does straight up nothing to my Scizor. Only 23%. Scizor, you are so bulky. I love you. So we're going to go for the Roost here, get back up to a nice solid 76%, and then I'm going to bring in my Manectric nice and free once again, as they are going to actually make a very good play here and go for the Parting Shot. I did think about clicking Knockoff that turn, but I thought swapping out into something and catching this thing would be nice. So I'm assuming they're going to swap out here. They bring in the Heatran again. Honestly, though, nothing really stops me from clicking buttons. Like, nothing really does stop me from clicking buttons. Like, I can just really Volt Switch on this guy once again, get out, bring in Slowking, and go from there. Slowking comes back in. He goes for the Earth Power. I'm like, alright, well, maybe I can Chili out. He's going to Magma Storm, do literally nothing. And I can Chili out because Magma Storm doesn't trap you thanks to Chili Reception. And I'm going to bring in Kyurem. So, in my mind, I was like, okay, I know when Earth Power kills this thing, but I feel like he's going to want to try and preserve this, maybe to a certain degree. So I'm like, well, I could try and go for the Roost here. And we've seen 3 of his moves. We've seen Will-O-Wisp, Earth Power, Magma Storm. I don't really know what his last could be. If he doesn't have Flash Cannon, we can freely Roost up on this thing. So I decide I'm just going to go for the Roost, and I'm going to not KO this thing and try and see if I can get some HP back on my big Kyurem here. So I'm going to Roost here, and we see that his last move is the Flash Cannon, which is going to KO my Kyurem. A bit of a misplay on my part, and an Earth Power would have been much, much, much smarter. Just getting the KO on this thing. So unfortunately there, our Kyurem is going to drop. But again, this lets me bring in somebody like Manectric, and I can freely just click buttons once again. So I'm going to Volt Switch out and bring back in my Ting Lu here, actually, as he's going to go for the Earth Power. Yummy. 15% is nothing to me. Plus, I'm going to get my lefties up, so that's going to put me in solid 91. So I can freely just go for the Earthquake here and take this thing out. As they bring in the Pecharunt, and this thing gets critted, I don't think it really mattered, because I think it was still a 2-hit KO on this thing. But we do see he will pack the Recover, and he will go for it next turn. So I'm like, I'm just going to Earthquake again, do a solid 39%. It does die again here, so I'm like, well, I can either play around this, because he has to recover again, surely. So I'm like, I can play around this. He also could have Parting Shotted out into the Togekiss, I guess. So I'm going to double out into my Manectric, as I'm assuming he's going to recover here, which he does end up doing. And I take a little bit of burn damage, but that's fine. I can Volt Switch on that thing. I get another nasty crit and do 24%, do 54% to him, putting him nice and low at only 26. So I'm like, okay, well, Sneasler kind of just freely comes in on this thing now, as he goes for the Hex and does literally nothing. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to hit Throat Chop and KO this thing. Beautiful. We take a little bit more Rocky Helmet damage, which is a bit unfortunate, but that's all we really need. In comes the Demon. In comes the Demon. Now, I do kind of misplay here, because I'm pretty sure that a normal gem boosted Fake Out into the Close Combat probably KOs this thing, which is a bit of a misplay on my part, because I probably should have just gone for it. But I end up bringing in my Slowking here just to, like, be physically defensive on this thing. Takes only 14 from that Aqua Step. My GOAT, Slowking, what an absolute legend. He does get the +1 speed, which is a bit annoying. But he actually is going to Terrasilize and be Terra Flying here and go for Terra Blast. I thought about clicking counter, but I really thought he would switch out. He ended up staying in, though. We lived the Terra Blast flying. And I actually go for the Chili here. Actually, no, I go for Toxic and miss, so that's really fun. That's really, really fun. Which I guess is still a bit of a misplay, because I could have just, like, chilied out and brought in Manectric and basically 1v1 this thing. But, yep, I made a mistake. I should not have gone for that, unfortunately. So he's going to Aqua Step again. I was just going to sack Slowking. Actually, no, I think I... What was my plan there? I think I didn't want him to get another Aqua Step off, so I was going to sack the Slowking here and then go for Chili. No, I just go for Psychic Noise. Why did I Psychic Noise there? I have no idea why I did that. If he would have Aqua Stepped right here, this could have been really annoying. If he would have Aqua Stepped right there, that could have been really annoying. So I end up going for the Terra Blast. He ends up going for the Terra Blast as I get the Intimidate off on him with Manectric. So he is currently -1 attack. I don't really know why I did that. As you see, he's about to CC, which actually does KO Manectric. Unfortunate. I guess it kind of makes sense. I feel like chilling out into something like Manectric would have been way better. But, yeah, because if he Aqua Step, that could have been a bit dangerous for SCIZOR. Granted, he would still be at -1 attack, but, you know, I really just didn't want him to roost. That was the main thing I didn't want. So, what can you do? He does pick up the KO onto my Manectric, which is fine. So he is +2 speed. I'm going to bring in SCIZOR. Get my Fake Out off. Normal Gem boost. Doing 32%. So I'm like, I know for sure Close Combat cooks this thing now, especially at -1 defense. So I am going to go for it this turn as we get the flinch off on him. And he is going to bring the Togekiss. So I'm going to go for the CC into it and do next to nothing. But we do pack the Poison Jab here and we'll be able to pick it off with that next turn. So that goes down. In comes the Mamoswine. This was a roll to KO me with Ice Shard if he was Jolly, and it was very heavily in my favor. So I was like, well, if I just stay in, I win. If I stay in and this doesn't kill me, I win the game. So I'm like, alright, I'm just going to go for the Close Combat and take it out. That's the play. If he is Jolly, that is a roll. I don't remember at the... I'll check his team at the end. If he is Jolly, that is 100% a roll. And it does... It's 50%... I think it's 57 or 58% max. So he got the highest of high rolls there on me, even with -1 defense. And I was calculating -1 defense in Manu, so that was a high roll there, unfortunately. Unless he was adamant, in which case I'm pretty sure it did kill me. But either way. So that blows. So SCIZOR does not just win here, unfortunately. So now I have to get a little creative. So I'm going to go for the Bullet Punch, KO the Mamoswine. It goes down. And he's going to bring the Quavo back in. But I know that 2 Bullet Punches are going to pick up the KO on this thing. He's going to go for the Terra Blast Flying. Only does 30% because we are physically defensive. And I know for sure that I KO this thing next turn with BP. But he actually ends up bringing in the Heatran. Bullet Punch only does 6%, so I know it lives, but honestly, I just win the game no matter what because I have Bullet Punch in the back. All I have to do is save SCIZOR. So I'm like, I'm switching out. I'm bringing in Ting Lu. Ting Lu, you handle this, buddy. This is all you, fam. He's going to go for the Magma Storm, which does good damage and does trap us, unfortunately, because he got a crit, which is huge a little bit, but it's fine. It ended up not mattering. We get the Earthquake off, so Ting Lu picks up the KO on the Heatran. And finally, that just leaves the Quaquaval coming in. We bring in Slowking here, trying to preserve differential. He's going to Aqua Step, only do 15%. Get his nice little speed boost. But I'm just going to click the counter this turn into the Terra Blast, and that Quaquaval is going to drop. So your Arcanine Pokemon Club, your Arcanine PC, pick up the nice and clean 3-0 this week. I definitely made a couple of misplays, unfortunately. I want to see if he does have... Was he Adamant Mamoswine? He was adamant, so it was not a roll. That actually is good to know. Alright, so it guaranteed killed us then. More than likely. It might have still been a roll, but it would have been a roll way more heavily in his favor. So what can you do? If he was Jolly, though, he got a max roll. So at least that puts my mind at ease a little bit. But either way, your Arcanine Pokemon Club, your Arcanine PC, pick up the hashtag Dubski and move to 3-1 on the season. That is what we like to see out of our team. Let me know what you guys saw of the battle down in the comments below. Make sure you leave a like on the video as well. It really helps me out a ton. And consider subscribing. We're on our way to 500 subscribers. It's my goal for the end of the year. I'd really appreciate if you could help me out with that. That is all I've got for you guys. I hope next week you'll be back here cheering on your Arcanine Pokemon Club, your Arcanine PC, in our Week 5 battle. Until then, I will see you guys soon. I'll leave you with this. You already know what I'm going to say, but I'm going to do it anyway. Have yourselves a good one, and peace.